You ever wonder why you're so irritated by hearing other people talk on their cell phones? Well, you're about to find out. A new study published yesterday in the journal PLOS ONE explains why cell phones rank so high on the list of modern-day irritants. Evidence suggests that hearing someone else talk on their cell phone hijacks the cognitive functions due to the brain's desire to fill in all the blanks. Joining us to discuss this is Veronica Galvin, assistant professor of psychology at the University of San Diego, who led the study. Veronica, tell us more about your research and why we're so annoyed.
Sure. There's lots of surveys that show that people are annoyed, but we wanted to see, well, just because they're annoyed, does it really affect their attention and memory? So we had participants show up for our study, and they didn't know that the conversation was part of the study. And the researcher left the room, bad copies, all kinds of excuses, and it turns out that the real participants, not only did they rate the conversation as annoying, but they also had a better memory for the conversation as well.
So when you say fill in the blanks, is this about trying to contextualize subconsciously a conversation?
It actually is something like that. It seems that there's something more intrusive about a cell phone conversation. The idea is that there's an empty space, and then the person starts speaking again, and the brain wants to understand, well, where does this information fit in? The brain wants to understand patterns and find context, and so somehow it seems to draw our attention.
All right, Negin, Peter, Veronica, I'm assuming, or Egberto, I should say, I'm assuming you're as annoyed as I am when this happens. What do you think of this study? Does it clarify things for you?
Actually, yes. I enjoyed the short read because it really puts into context why it really is that if you're listening to half the conversation, you start writing blogs that sounds funny. I had a bad one yesterday, and I was actually listening to somebody. So I was happy to see that. We have a reason now.
So yeah?
I actually think that it has a lot to do with this fear that other people's lives are more interesting than ours. That you're listening to someone else's conversation because you're like, oh my God, they have a way better life than mine. So I feel like that might have a lot to do with it.
So it's really about our brain working harder, that our brain simply can't ignore that conversation. Peter, do you find yourself in this predicament often?
Yes, much more often than I used to. I think that's just because there's so many of us are having our cell phones in our pockets at all times, and they're so easy to use and manipulate. I'm also very concerned about folks who are okay with divulging their own sort of private information in public settings, if it's at the gym or in the hallway, or I'm a college professor. The number of conversations that are going on down the hallway on cell phones has dramatically increased over the years.
No, I want white balsamic vinegar. No, vinaigrette. Vinaigrette. The vinaigrette dressing. Just kidding. Trying to make a joke at the end of this news block. Thank you, Veronica, for joining us and for trying to not laugh at the obscene joke right there. Egberto, Negin, Peter, always a pleasure to have you join us. Much more coming up here at HuffPost Live. Be sure to stay tuned.